What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into another episode of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, of course, viewable on YouTube. And for the first time in, I can't remember how long, no picks this week, Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network. It's episode number 229. KB and DJ coming at you from Underground Studios. Got some things to talk about. A lot of big things, not a lot of topics, but a lot of big discussion points to go into. We're going to recap PLL Minnesota, and then we're going to get into these drafts, meaning the NLL expansion draft results and the PLL All-Star draft that were both taking place today as we record this on Thursday night. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB Laxpod on Twitter, Instagram. We are 14 followers away from 1,400 on Twitter. Let's get there. Come on. You guys aren't doing anything this weekend. Let's get to that mark there. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_next. Great. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Leave your thoughts, questions, concerns, anything you want in the Apple Podcast reviews, but make sure it's 5 stars because we have standards. We know you do too, and we know they're 5 stars. And of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel. Search Underground Sports Philadelphia on YouTube. You get full video episodes of OTB every single Friday morning. And right now on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Twitter, go over there at UndergroundPHI. It's our pinned tweet. We're giving away issue number 22 of Wolverine with the variant Brian Dawkins cover for all of our Philly people out there that love B-Doc. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get an extra entry into the giveaway. So go check that out. Follow the rules to get entered. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe, you get that extra entry. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss a single video we upload. Click the like button, and of course, comment down below and get the discussion flowing about everything we're talking about on this episode. Big thank you to our sponsors who make this show happen. Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. Go to tomahawkshades.com. Use promo code USP for 25% off your order at tomahawkshades.com. That includes the prescription lenses, blue light glasses, sunglasses, everything in between. tomahawkshades.com. Use code USP for 25% off at checkout. Kenwood Beer, go to kenwoodbeer.com and use that Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. And the homies over at Bino. Go to binoboard.com and use code BINOUSP. That's BINHOUSP for 10% off your order. I just got the text alert today, Deej. They got the Team USA limited edition boards back in stock. Go to binoboard.com, code BINOUSP for 10% off your order at binoboard.com. What's popping, Coach Deej?
Man, had an awesome practice today. The boys had quite some time off because we had the split team last weekend, 13 and 14. So some of my guys came, some of my guys didn't. So some guys had like 10 or 12 days off or whatever. And some guys just had the weekend and a few days extra. So it was nice to be back with the boys and get them rolling. And we're headed back to Rockford this weekend for another chance at the chip.
Let's get it. We are at the break for the PLL. Surprisingly, it has come quick. We're 5 weeks in. We're going to quickly recap PLL Minnesota for you guys, give our thoughts on the games, and our takeaways from the press conferences and everything, because Deej and I were both in all of those press conferences. Some very insightful stuff from everybody who was in them this weekend. So to run down quickly, to recap the weekend, Archers top Redwoods 10-9. Atlas give Chrome their first loss of the season. They win 14-13. Chaos come out victorious with the boys back in the fold. They win 13-11 over Cannons. And the Water Dogs pull the upset and beat Whipsnakes 11-10 in a revenge game. Very on brand for them. That was the first rematch that we've had all season as well. What are some of your takeaways from Minnesota, DJ? I know it was an action-packed weekend. Obviously, every single game was a one-possession game when that final whistle blew, but what are some things you took away from Minnesota as we are now at the halfway point of the 2022 season?
Uh, um, as much as it sucks to say this, the Redwoods are just behind. The offense is at that point where they're figuring it out. Like they found, the group and how they want to play, but now they're meshing that together. That game plan together. That's what you do weeks, 1 through 3. They're doing that weeks 4 through 6. They're behind, but the up in that is that they are still ranked 6th or 5th, so they're in the playoffs right now. And once they do hit that stride, things can go up, and they could end up in that top 4 like we thought they would be. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing, but they're just behind. But I thought they played a really good game this weekend and just fell short again. 1-goal losses really suck. But the best game of the weekend was obviously that second one that night, Chrome Atlas. It was just unreal.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, looking at it at the halfway point, this is the standings right now. Atlas in first place by virtue of beating Chrome. They're 4-1 with a 13 score differential. Chrome 4-1 with a 13 score differential. And the funny part is Atlas has scored one more goal than Chrome and given up one more goal than Chrome. Whipsnakes also at 4-1, but their score differential is a 5. Archers are 3-2 with a score differential of 15, the best in the league. Water Dogs are 2-3 with an even 0 score differential. And then Redwoods, Cannons, and Chaos are all 1-4. Redwoods sit at the 6th seed with a -13 score differential. Cannons a -16. And Chaos, if the playoffs started right now, would miss it, and they'd get the number 1 overall pick at -17. So right now, if the season also ended, Atlas, Chrome, Whipsnakes, Archers would be in that championship series tournament, which I think for the most part, outside of Redwoods, those are the 4 teams that would be fine playing in that based on it happening during the NLL season. I mean, like you said, Chrome Atlas was incredible. I'm chalking up Chrome taking an L simply based on their helmet selection because that's the only loss they have, and that's the first time they wore those, to my knowledge. And you got to look good, feel good, play good, and they didn't play good. They didn't check off that last box. So I'm chalking it up to that. Your team name is Chrome LC, and you're wearing matte gray helmets. Not great for the optics. I gotta say, you and I talk off pod all the time about the press conferences and stuff. Who has been your favorite person to talk to post game this year? Because I feel like this year, more so than any other year that I've been able to either in 2019 just be down on the field and interviewing people, last season, being all Zoom and everything, and this year as well, the press conferences are always incredible and so insightful, more so I think than any other sport. You get so much more out of everybody who's in there, and they're willing to kind of hold a conversation 99% of the time. Who's been who do you think was the best this past weekend that we got a chance to kind of pick their brains after a win or a loss?
Not even just this weekend. I have to say most of the season it's been Coach Ben Rubiar of Atlas.
Yes,
it's just
same.
Hearing the way he deciphers the game and his players, while being respectful to his players in the game, he still points out the things that they really need to work on while also praising the things that they did very well. He finds a way to answer the question in the best way without stepping on anyone's toes, but also giving a very solid answer.
Yeah, and I think he's so much more comfortable with kind of the flow of the media side of things this year than he was last year. Where last year I think he was so tunnel vision on being the coach. That's what his focus was, and you can't knock him for that. Look what Atlas did last year. But now I feel like he's so much more comfortable and calm and relaxed in the press conferences. He's having fun. You saw when I asked him about substitution. I'm going to do that every week. I'm going to ask him about the substitutions every week because he brought it up, and I'm interested to see how he feels they've progressed every week, because going back to Long Island, he said he felt it was their worst game of substituting that they've ever had. he kind of chuckled when I asked him that, and I was like, that's the first time I've ever seen Rubio like crack a smile, which is awesome because now it's like you're kind of breaking down that wall of, let me have this wall up while I'm talking to the media. You're kind of chiseling away at that, and you get a more personable interaction, which I think makes for a better media coach / player interaction. Rubio is hands down been my favorite to talk to, and a close second has been Pseudo in terms of coaches. And hopefully everything is good with him. I know he wasn't coaching this week due to a medical issue, so hopefully Pseudo's back and ready to roll post All-Star. Other takeaways, shout out to Jerry Ragonese. Just unbelievable. The fact that he played off an injury like a celebration the way that he did was masterclass. It was electric to just see him score and to see Chaos get 3 guys to score off the faceoff. Jerry, Jack Rowlett, and CJ Costabile all tallying goals off the faceoff was amazing. And it certainly feels like Chaos has their swagger back.
Yeah, definitely. We've mentioned over and over. They've even mentioned it over and over. From Blaze to Jack to AT at the top. They've all said I wouldn't want to be 0-4, 0-3 with any other team. Like, we've been here before, we've done this before. We know exactly what we have to do. It's just a matter of doing it. And last weekend they did it, and it only takes one time to do it before you start doing it over and over. I'm not going to necessarily, say they got their swagger back, but I mean, they look good, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them roll out after, the All-Star break and get 2-3 in a row and look like the Chaos team we're expecting them to be.
Yeah, because I don't picture their offense keeping them in a negative score differential for very much longer.
Or at least that bad of one.
Right.
17 is quite a hole. So, I would understand if they don't make it out of that because of how good other offenses are, but I don't expect it to stay at -17 either.
And I think they're one of those teams, though, that could have one of those, like, big score differential games where, like, they win a game, 14-4 because they have the guys on defense. They have the best goalie on the planet. And I think it's just a matter of getting guys healthy back at the stripe, whether it's Tommy Kelly, who had a family thing this weekend, I think that AT had mentioned in the press conference, and then getting Max Adler healthy. Once that's situated, like, they're fully ready to rock and roll, and that's when I think you'll see them clicking on all cylinders, was when they're getting possessions, because they're a team that I think heavily relies on getting situated with possessions for their offense to go full guns blazing the way that they do, and especially with Challen Rogers now in the fold, who just continues to dazzle in this offense, and it looks like he's been playing in it for a decade. That's what I'm looking forward to most with Chaos. My other big takeaway is the Water Dogs are just scrappy as fuck. Like, I still can't believe they lost that first game to the Whip Snakes the way that they played, and just kind of running on a team adrenaline high when Jake Withers went down. And then for them to, have, no, all pun intended here, have that dog in them, to go out and beat Whip Snakes the way they did. Like, that's what I was talking about early in the season when I felt like Water Dogs and Whip Snakes should be a rivalry. And I asked Andy Copeland about that in the press conference. He was like, typical coach speak, every team's good in this league. Those motherfuckers want to be rivals. I can feel it. Like, the way that Bryce Young and Michael Sowers just chirp at each other every single time.
Well, that's a Bryce Young problem, right?
100%. It's Bryce Young initiating it.
Not only did he go from 6 to 41, which is probably
terrible jersey analytics.
Look at he's just been that way all season. He's just been in everyone's faces and just like doing extra stuff. Like, I don't understand where this is coming from. Like, he wasn't like that his past couple of years. Like, he was a pretty ill-mannered guy, played very solid defense. Like, he was like annoying a bit, but it was like that normal annoying.
It's because he's a head coach now.
It must be. It must be. You know what? Get me out there.
He got that head coach stipend.
Let me do some annoying stuff then. That's fine. You know what? I'm not.
Well, he's a head coach at a private school.
I'm signing up for. Well, I'm a head coach at a public school. We don't know rules. Okay, we don't know.
Valid.
I'm signing up for ULAX in Grand Rapids, and I'm just gonna do stupid stuff like Bryce Young does. There it
It
is.
blows my mind how much I don't even I'm gonna look this up as we're talking, but it blows my mind how he just always wants to pick a fight with Michael Sowers, and then Michael Sowers is just this sweet little Delco boy, and he's like, yeah, nobody's trying to cause any trouble over here. Like, just relax a little bit. I don't know why everybody's chirping. We're good. We're good. It's so funny how badly he just wants to bully Michael Sowers.
Same thing with Ryder. And Ryder just doesn't go there with him because he's
Ryder will just go for his ankles.
Because Ryder's like, yo, I'm nuts. And then if I get into it with you, I got
Bryce is 6'2", and Michael Sowers is 5'9". What's Ryder, 5'10"?
Yeah. But I mean, Ryder's thinking I got, the three giants behind me and Miles, Surge, and Mitch.
Ryder's 5'9", so I think Bryce just has something against guys that are 5'9". Bryce hates the short kings. That's the title of the episode. Bryce Young hates the short kings.
So do we add Chris Gray to that list?
Oh my God. How tall is Will Manny?
He's down there too. He's down there too.
Bryce Young hates the short kings. Confirmed. Please credit us for discovering this.
But yeah.
Bryce Young hates Grant. Amen. And Will Manny. They're both 5'9". Bryce Young hates the 5'9", guys. I'm calling it now. Wait till Whips play Archers. We are going to do scientific research. Because I feel like by the time Whips play Archers again.
How tall is D. Simone?
Let me look that up. Let me see when.
If Grant isn't around. Because that's probably who will play it.
So we will know in Denver, of all places, if Bryce Young truly hates the short kings, because that's when Whip Snakes play Archers. Connor D. Simone is 5'11". It's also very funny because it seems like Matt Moore is much shorter than he is, but he's listed at 6'2".
Nah, Matt Moore is a low-key a giant.
In the press conferences, I should say.
Okay,
when he sits down, I'm like, man, this Archer's offense is small.
But you see him out in the field, and you just see him, and you're like, yeah.
Bryce Young might really hate Jack Jasinski though. He's only 5'7".
How does he feel about Gitz?
Ooh, Gitz 5'9". He's on the hit list.
Is Colin Russo on the hit list? He's a little guy too.
Justin Inacio just gets by, as does Frankie Libetti. They're both 5'10".
Ooh.
Tyrell Hammer Jackson is probably very happy he's not playing right now because he's 5'6". Ooh, Bryce. John Robbins 5'9". Bryce Young might just try to fight the entire Archers roster.
That'd be fun to see. That would be fun to see.
Are we making it so that Bryce Young never comes on this podcast now?
I mean, I'm not 5'9".
Or no, I'm just saying because we're claiming that he's a bully. Or do we let Bryce Young clear his name on the pod?
We have to. I think we let him come on and talk about why he's got so much beef with all these guys.
He's like a bull seeing the red moving.
Yeah. I don't know what those guys do to him. Maybe they're doing something to him, and we just don't know. We can't.
What if Bryce is innocent?
That's what I'm saying. Innocent until proven guilty. We're just slaying this man here, and we don't even know what's going on. It's awful.
I wonder who else is 5'9" in the league. This is going to be we're gonna make a graphic for social, and it's just gonna be the Bryce Young hit list. Bryce Young's greatest hits.
Oh my God.
Everyone who's 5'9". Shane Jackson, look out. No wonder Shane's been on the restricted roster recently.
And to think we saw his mom and brother at our hotel.
Right. We should have asked. Is everything okay?
Is Bryce doing all right? He changed his number, and he's a little off.
Something's off.
Are you okay with him changing to 41? How do you feel about it? Who does he think he is?
Yeah, I don't know what went into that decision. I'm still also always thrown off when I see Scott Ratliff, speaking of jersey changes.
32 and wearing a chest pad.
Yeah, it's very... He looks like 40 pounds heavier.
Yes, he literally looks like he has an Iron Man chest on. Every time I look at him, I'm like, man, he's got a real EKG lugging around on his chest. He just got a whole defib.
Yo, Nick Grill better watch out the next time Chrome plays Lipstick. He's 5'8".
Ooh, that's what I thought. He's a little guy. Because, I mean, his brother's a little guy, too, BJ.
That's so funny. The Bryce Young hit list. How tall is Cav? I know Brendan Kavanaugh's 5'8". Oh, Matt Cav's 5'8" too.
I say, yeah, he's pretty short, too.
They better watch out. I mean, this is kind of funny. The entire Redwoods attack group is all under 6 foot.
Yeah. Rob's in at what, 5'10"?
5'10", yeah. Him and Ryan Lee are both 5'10". Joe Robertson's 5'11".
Almost.
Joe's like, put me in some cleats real quick.
Please, 6 foot. Easy. Easy.
Let me do my stretches at night.
Man's doing 1,000 calf raises a day.
Oh, TD, better watch out.
Oh, yeah.
TD's 5'9".
TD's a small guy.
He's on the list. There it is.
Trevor's what, 6?
Trevor might be. I think Trevor's like my height, like 5'11". Because I've obviously been. Trevor's 5'10".
Okay.
I knew Trevor was like around my height because I've like been around him during wing season.
I knew he wasn't like that short, but I couldn't remember if he hit 6 or not.
Yeah, Chris Gray's 5'7".
What's Rambo? 5'10"?
I think Rambo's around 5'10" as well.
That man is the most athletic bowling ball I've ever seen.
5'10", yeah.
Like, and that's not even disrespect. Like, I've never seen somebody shaped like him be that athletic,
right?
For real. Like, it's just nuts. Like, you see him and you're like, ain't no way he can, like, move. And you watch him on a lacrosse field and you're like, for real? Did he just do that?
Man,
like,
do you think Bryce takes, like, extra hard shots on Brian Phipps during practice?
Yes.
Because Brian Phipps is 5'9"?
Just because he broke his stick over his head last year. He's like, maybe if I hit him in the right spot, he'll get mad and break his stick again.
Short ass.
Doesn't save a shot.
Whenever Brian Phipps plays goalie for Whipsnakes, Bryce is like when you're playing Pokemon and your Pokemon's confused and it hits itself in confusion.
He doesn't make a save. Man, get your short ass out the net, man.
Fucking feed the ball, bitch.
What's Bernlor? 5'10"?
5'11"? 5'10". Just barely makes it out.
Barely.
Bryce Young is, you must be this tall for me to not hate you.
Has them step up to the board, put their back to it. Oh, sorry, you're just a tad too short. Whack.
He starts barking at him. It's like DMX. Bryce gonna give it to you.
Oh my god. Ridiculous.
Oh man. But yeah, Minnesota was dope. I thought that fireworks video edit that they put out was super cool. And man, just electric games. And I think the cool part about where we are at the halfway point is, like I said earlier, the standings. Like 3 teams are 4-1, Archers are 3-2, Water Dogs are 2-3, and then there's 3 teams that are 1-4. Like, so much can change in the second half of the season, and so many teams are so close to each other that it's going to make for an incredible West Coast slate. And Connecticut, obviously, which we just found out DJ and I will both be there, which I'm very excited because I've been to Connecticut a couple times, Deej. There's some pizza spots we got to hit. That Connecticut pizza slaps. And one of my close friends is up there who is up-and-coming stand-up comedian, and I'm hoping he's got a show that night.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
So we will be at Fairfield.
And I'm excited to get back on the road, get a game of Bino League in, man. At least one game. Like, man, it's been over a month now, man.
It's nuts.
Dude,
that's how I felt when I went and got my haircut this week. I was like, I got my haircut right before we left for Albany.
Yeah.
And I looked like fucking Beekman's World on my way to get that haircut. Real ones know who Beacon is.
It was not that bad.
It was rough.
It was not that bad.
Man, I got sniped on the Twitter though.
Yeah, that was bad.
They
didn't have
sniped.
to do you like
they
that.
Did me real dirty.
They did not have to do you like that.
So shout out to Minnesota. Let's get into the big things that happened today as we record this on Thursday. That NLL expansion draft happened. And man, was it a doozy. The Las Vegas Desert Dogs have their squad. Their GM head coach Sean Williams loves the trade machine. And we're gonna recap everything that happened here for you because it was done on Twitter, and then I'm gonna have a mini gripe with how this was done. And I'll have a mini gripe about the PLL All-Star Draft as well. But the Las Vegas Desert Dogs' first player in franchise history, Deej, comes from the Albany Firewolves, and he's one of my favorite young players in the league. Jackson Nishimura, first overall pick for Vegas. I love this pick for them. I know our boy Charlie Kitchen, future guest of this show, was very upset that Jackson is now leaving Albany, but I love this pick for Vegas. That is a core defenseman to add to this roster who will be with this team for years to come, and that's somebody you build your defense around.
Yeah, I mean, he was very solid in very important points for Albany this year. We talk about their death of 1,000 cuts, stupid defense that gave so many offenses problems this year. He was a big part of that, being vocal, being in the middle, causing havoc, getting out in transition. Like, he was a big part of how good their defense was, and I expect him to go on and be a leader and build, something great over in Vegas.
The number 2 pick was the boy, Connor Fields. That was kind of like the most obvious pick of all time. And then the first goalie off the board was Riley Hutchcraft from Toronto, but not so fast because, well, actually, I'll read the next pick because they made that pick after. From Rochester, they took John Wagner, brother of Ryan Wagner, who plays for the Wings. And then we had one of the biggest trades of the expansion draft. So Vegas and Rochester swung a deal where Rochester received Riley Hutchcraft, Connor Fields, and the 2022 first-round pick in the entry draft, first overall. So Rochester, when that entry draft, that college draft starts in the fall, they will be number 1 on the clock now. Las Vegas, in return, receives 2022 first round, second overall pick, so they just kind of flip-flop 1 and 2. They get the 2022 fourth-round pick from Rochester, which is 74th overall, 2022 sixth-round pick, which is 91st overall, and a 2023 first-round pick to be determined wherever Rochester finishes, as well as, for my brand, shout out to the Birdman, Charlie Bertrand, now a member of Las Vegas. And the way he played last year for Rochester, the way he is currently playing for Redwoods in the PLL, Charlie Bertrand is a guy who can be a face of a franchise.
I'm seeing Dane Smith with, his own juice. Like, just the way he plays with his body and aggressiveness, going to the cup, being able to shoot from the outside, having passing vision, and being able to move the ball. Like, he can play a similar role to what Dane does for Chaos and also what he does for Buffalo, and take that over to Vegas. And he could be very successful as kind of like a point guy almost, and kind of just running the offense.
And then Vegas gets their actual goalie now, and they took Landon Kells from the Roughnecks, Christian Del Bianco's backup. Love that pick for them. That's going to be their guy as we move along. That's the only goalie on their roster right now, which is very interesting. Don't know if anything will get shaken up later on once, free agency starts and everything, but Landon Kells, their only goalie currently on the roster. Then we had another trade where Las Vegas selected Brett McIntyre from the world champion Colorado Mammoth, but then traded him back to Colorado in exchange for Sam Firth and Eric Turner. So they get a 2-for-1 deal there from Colorado. and add 2 players from the defending champs. Then they get, as Vegas tweeted, the pride of New Jersey lacrosse, Connor Kirst, coming to Vegas. I love this pick. I think Connor was kind of not held back, but kind of like in the background on that Georgia Swarm team, and I think now he gets an opportunity to really showcase and grow in the box game, being with an expansion team, and I think him playing with Charlie Bertrand is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, 2-man with them is all I could think about when I saw those 2 were picked on the same. Like, just any type of 2-man with cuts going on the backside with them opens up so much, because you have to respect the ball handler, whoever it is, with either one of them. You have to respect the picker, so then you're overcompensating, talking on defense, possibly leaving a cutter open. Their offense can really flourish using the 2 of them in a pick game.
And then next up, building up that defense even more, former follower of the podcast, James Barclay from the Halifax Thunderbirds goes to Vegas. I know our boy Austin Owens is very upset about that one. Next, from your New York Riptide Deej, they took Ty Thompson to add to that offense. I love him as kind of, one of those sneaky, kind of Kieran McCardle-esque guys for this Vegas team, where he's going to slide in. People are going to be paying attention to Charlie Bertrand. People are going to be paying attention to Connor Kirst. They're going to be paying attention to whoever they get, top 2 in the draft. And then Ty Thompson's going to come in and sneak along and put up numbers in this offense, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at Colorado, right? They won because they had 3rd and 4th guys who were coming in being nuts. Connor Robinson, Eli McLaughlin, like those dudes were in all reality were
Zed.
really, but you look at their offense, their first 2 options are Ryan Lee and Zed Williams. But then when you have Connor Robinson and Eli McLaughlin stepping up, putting up hat tricks here and there, that really helps your offense when your 3rd and 4th options are playing that way. Ty Thompson could be the exact same thing for this Vegas squad. When you have Charlie Bertrand and Connor Kirst playing well, but then you have Ty Thompson putting up 3 or 4 goals or, a couple assists as well, your offense is bound to win.
Here's one of my favorite picks that Vegas made from Panther City, which I didn't even realize he was on Panther City's roster, to be honest with you. Jack Hanna. Pride of the Water Dogs, pride of Denver University. I love this pick for Vegas. I think, he's obviously super close to where he went to school, and I think him getting a chance if he decides to play, because I don't know if he played at all for Panther City last year or not.
I don't think so.
Because his picture that Vegas tweeted out is in his college uniform, so I would assume he didn't really play for Panther City. But Jack Hanna excites me with the way we've seen him so far playing for the Water Dogs in kind of like, that 1B Team Canada style of offense to chaos, where, he's able to kind of play with his boy Ethan Walker, who we saw thrive with the Georgia Swarm this year. He's playing with Zach Currier. He's playing with these guys who have box backgrounds. It excites me to see what Jack Hanna's skill set can do in the box game.
I mean, I just mentioned, 3rd and 4th guys. There's your 4th guy, right? He's, Jack Hanna and Ty Thompson aren't going to pop off every game, but when you get that crazy game from Jack Hanna where he goes for, 3 and 2 or, 5 goals or whatever, you very much appreciate it. And I see Jack Hanna as a guy that not a lot, but could end up being stuck on defense and can play pretty decent down there and get you out in transition. So
yes,
a very solid pick, in my opinion, in terms of that. He gives you very solid offensive potential, but also can get stuck on D, play a solid possession and get you out in transition and possibly get you a goal from himself or, put up a pretty nice assist.
The next pick comes from my Philadelphia Wings. Jackson Subak going to Vegas. I know this one probably hurt Paul Day a little bit. This was a guy that he was kind of trying to groom into this defense a bit. Bigger body. I think he's going to thrive in Vegas. Wasn't with Philly that long. But I will say, everyone, for the most part, I think outside of Steven Stamp, got this pick wrong because everybody was predicting Vegas to take Isaiah Davis-Allen. And I must say, me, being a guy who covers the Wings and is a Wings fan, I am stoked that Isaiah Davis-Allen did not get taken because he is one of the most underrated box lacrosse players in the league, in my opinion. It sucks seeing a young guy like Jackson get taken, but knowing Paul Day being one of the best GMs in the league, he's going to find a guy to replace Jackson Subak, whether it's in free agency or in the draft. And I just got to say, I think Wings fans should be doing backflips that Isaiah Davis-Allen did not get taken.
I would agree with that. He's very solid. And that's not even just in the box game, in the field game as well. When it comes to playing defense with a short stick, no matter where it is, he's one of the best. And he can get out in transition. He may not shoot the ball much, but he'll push the issue and get the defense moving and get the attack a very solid fast break opportunity. So I would agree with you, and the Wings fans should be happy that he's staying. You can be sad that Jackson's leaving, but I mean, stepping into the situation he's stepping into, I think is a little bit better for him in terms of his size, being able to play and use his body with a guy like James Barclay, who's just aggressive already, I think will help that Vegas defense out a lot, along with Nishimura as well.
Yeah.
That's three guys right there that you can build your that's a solid three to build your defense around and get help from.
And if, this is no knowledge for anybody out there, obviously I cover the Wings and I'm very close with the team and everything. I would assume the hope is Brock Sorensen is playing for this team in 2022-23. So that opens up, how much playing time would Jackson have gotten anyway, especially when you have guys like Steph Charbonneau, Ryan Wagner, and everything on that defense as well. So I was totally okay, and I think it's going to give Jackson a lot more playing opportunity to really grow his game, and I'm excited to see him play for Vegas. Speaking of defense, though, Deej, another trade went down. I was very confused at first by this pick. Vegas selected Big Frank Chiliano, who is an unrestricted free agent going into free agency this year. So them taking him really means nothing because he can sign with any team once August 1st hits. So I was very confused as to why they drafted him and kind of wasted their pick from San Diego on a guy who could go anywhere, including back to San Diego. Well, he's going back to San Diego. Shout out Blink-182. Because they traded Frank Chiliano back to the Seals in exchange for 2022 second-round pick, which is 26th overall, and a 2023 third-round pick to be determined, obviously, by San Diego standings, as well as Mark Lassini. So Glicks are going to be on the stat sheet in Las Vegas, and Brandon Cleland, who was San Diego's primary face-off guy for transition. To me, Vegas made out like bandits. No pun intended to come at Buffalo there, but Vegas, this is a great trade for them. To take a guy who probably wasn't going to sign with them anyway, I would assume, trade him back to the place that he's probably going to re-sign with now, and get that type of haul for him to build your team and get a proven transition face-off guy in this league in Brandon Cleland, as well as Mark Lassini to add to that defensive core that we just mentioned, and 2 more draft picks. Phenomenal trade by Sean Williams.
I think it was very smart. I mean, like you said, he wasn't going to sign with them. They picked up a goalie earlier in the draft. But going back and getting Glick, I mean, that, like I said, going back to that defense, now you have a 4th guy in that unit that arguably, I don't know who is a better person to make the captain of your defense. Do you go with Nishimura because he's young and, he did so well with Albany and can be there as a staple? Or do you go with James Barclay, who's extremely aggressive and is a vocal leader and will push everybody to be as aggressive? Or do you go with Glassini, who's just a nutcase leader and is going to be like, hey, this is how we play defense, and either you get with it or you get lost. You have so many good options to go with there in terms of leadership that you can't really go wrong.
And this is another opportunity very similar to Jackson Subak, in my opinion, where Glick's going to get a lot more opportunity to play, where he didn't really get that opportunity with San Diego. So I'm excited for him to be going to Vegas. It seemed like Vegas was adding more to this defense, and this is a guy that, to me, would have been their defensive captain if they kept him. They took Jeff Cornwall from Saskatchewan, and then Sean Williams loves that trade machine. He called up the Calgary Roughnecks, traded Jeff Cornwall to the Roughnecks in exchange for the 2022 first round pick, which is 18th overall, and I believe that falls into the compensatory round, which might be the Dane Doby pick, if I'm not mistaken, that Calgary got for Dane going to San Diego. And then Las Vegas also gets follower of the show, Marshall King. I love this deal for Las Vegas. I think Marshall is a great weapon to add to this offense. It sucks that he's not playing with Jesse anymore in Calgary. And Jesse also tweeted about that and said mom and dad might go to one of your home games now. The addition of Marshall as a leader, as a guy who has won a championship in this league, and somebody that can also be a face of your franchise for the next couple of years until you start adding like your own type of players. I love this deal for Vegas to add Marshall King to the fold, especially when you have 4 proven or young defenders on this team, and you can go and get that for a guy like Jeff Cornwell to trade to a team like Calgary, who you and I were not planning on them being where they were at the end of last year. So it still looks like they're trying to get, as much as they can in a championship window. I like this deal for both teams, but I love Marshall King being added to this Vegas roster.
Yeah, it's another layer to that offense. A guy who's been in the league before, for quite some time now, is very experienced, has multiple different avenues to affect the game on the offensive side, but he's also played with Jesse King and Curtis Dixon and, a championship caliber offense up in Calgary. So he's bringing a different level and a different experience to that offense that guys haven't had before there. So that definitely, it adds a spice, right? You're in the fourth quarter, it's a tight game. Who do you really want the ball to, whose stick do you really want the ball to be in? I'm going to be honest, it's probably going to be Marshall King. Like, yeah, Charlie Bertrand and Connor Curtis are your best players per se, but they haven't been there before. Nerves start racking. You're going to want somebody who handles the pressure well, and Marshall King would be that guy. Like, I think he's a great person to mentor Connor Curtis and Charlie Bertrand and kind of teach them the ropes so that they can expound on their talents and reach the level that they should reach.
And then with the final pick of the 2022 NLL expansion draft, Vegas from the Vancouver Warriors takes Tyson Rowe. Now, DJ, they add to the defense here with Tyson. I'm gonna read you his height and weight, and you tell me how excited you are if you're a Vegas fan to have this guy as a defenseman on your team. Tyson Rowe checks in at 6'10", 265 pounds.
What?
6'10", 265 pounds. Defenseman.
That's like before seen. Like, what? How do you even? Is he allowed to hit anyone? Like that just takes me like I feel so bad for some kids who are playing like travel lacrosse, because like we have kids in our program where like they hit kids and they immediately just get penalties because like every time they hit them in the head because like they're giants and the kids are down here. Like that's what I'm envisioning. Like he's just gonna hit someone, it's gonna be right in the neck, and he's like, "What do you want me to do?"
To put in perspective, like we talk about Brock Sorensen being that big body anchor defenseman. Brock Sorensen is 6'6", 220 pounds. Mm-hmm. Tyson Rowe is 4 inches taller and 45 pounds heavier.
Yep.
Good luck.
He is an NBA power forward.
Yeah, that's like
he is an NBA power forward. Like he is a NFL tight end. Like he is a heavyweight boxer. Like this
he's taller than Robert Covington.
Yeah, this dude is a real like muscle dude. Like this is a real specimen.
Like he's an inch taller than LeBron on paper.
Yeah.
You got LeBron James playing defense for you,
Legit,
basically,
legit.
in terms of height and weight optics.
The
Absolutely
yeah,
unbelievable.
it's unreal. It's
So to
unreal.
recap here, I feel like we should give our letter grades for the results here. So they're forwards, the Vegas Desert Dogs: Charlie Bertrand, Sam Firth, Jack Hanna, Marshall King, Connor Kirst, Ty Thompson. Defense: James Barclay, Brandon Cleland, Mark Glissini, Jackson Nishimura, Tyson Rowe, Jackson Subak, Eric Turner, John Wagner, and then the lone goalie, Landon Kells. Deej, on an A through F, what would you give Vegas for their expansion draft results?
I can give this a solid B, to be honest. Like, I think they really went out and built a solid team that has a good mix of veteran and young, a good mix of guys who've been there before, a good mix of guys who have just pure talent, guys who are coming in trying to figure out the league versus guys who have already done it. Like, they they did a very good job of picking a solid team that is gritty, is aggressive, has offensive talent, can move the ball, and they all seem like guys that are like good guys, like guys want to hang around and be around. Like that's a big thing. It's like chemistry and like how guys come together. Like if you're not getting personable people, you're doing it wrong. Like one thing I noticed when I was at Adrian College, like our club D1 men's hockey team, they didn't just recruit the hockey player, they recruited the the man, the kid as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like even before they extended an offer to a kid, they asked the team how he was on the visit. Did he gel with you guys? How was it hanging out? Was he like offish? Did he stand off and was nervous? Like if he didn't gel with them, there was no way he was getting a spot offered. Like the lack of putting guys together that would work and come together in camaraderie amazes me in sports. Like you can't just pick the best guys and put them together. It has to be some type of camaraderie, and I think they did a good job of picking guys that won't have a lot of trouble getting together and meshing.
And also, let's not forget, Las Vegas also acquired 7 draft picks in this expansion draft. From Rochester, they get the 2022 second overall pick, the 2022 74th overall pick, the 2022 91st overall pick, and a 2023 first rounder from Rochester. So they get 3 top 100 picks just from Rochester alone. Then they get a 2022 second round pick, 26th overall from San Diego, and a 2023 third rounder to be determined. So now let's do some math there. 4 top 100 picks in this upcoming college draft. And then from Calgary, 2022 18th overall pick in the first round, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody out there, is the Dane Doby compensatory pick. 5 top 100 picks in this year's college draft. That to me is even more important as an expansion franchise than any of the guys that they took in this draft, because obviously you're going to see how they mesh in training camp and everything like that. It's going to be, a situation where these guys got to blend, they got to mesh, they got to figure chemistry out. To get 7 guys coming in the top 100 in this year's draft who will be coming in together, I think is so important for the future and the now of this Vegas team.
Yeah, that was one of the smartest moves coach made was, going out and getting all those draft picks. Like you really make your team better by drafting. Like, yeah, trades happen and free agency and stuff, but in all reality, like going out and drafting and getting those guys that are gritty and want to win, want to come be a part of your program is how you change things around. Like you have to come in and you have to want guys that want to come in and win. And they have to want it right away, and they have to put in the extra work. And you get those guys in the draft. You don't really get those guys in free agency. You don't really get those guys in trades because a lot of those guys in free agency and trades are thinking about themselves at that point. Like they want to win, but it's because they want to win. They were tired of losing, or they were tired of the scenario they were in, so they asked to leave or they left in free agency. Versus You're getting a fresh guy that's like, I just want to help your team win. What do I have to do to help this program get to where it needs to be? and to get seven of those guys coming in right away onto a fresh team that doesn't have chemistry and they don't have to be, they don't have to find their way onto a team. They're learning, they're being integrated all at the same time is huge.
100%. I'm giving this draft for Vegas like a solid like B plus A minus from top to bottom from players and draft picks acquired. I think Sean Williams knocked this out of the park. And I think if you're in Vegas and you're getting into the NLL, if you're becoming a Vegas Desert Dogs fan, you should be very excited about this current makeup of the roster as it sits right now. I think my only concern, which I'm sure it will be addressed either in the draft or free agency or via another trade, is they need another goalie.
Oh, I didn't even think about. I literally just assumed like that was a draftee coming up. I mean, you have 7 picks. Why not pick a goalie or go to free agency or whatever? But I would assume that they will have a second or possibly a third goalie by the time training camp and stuff gets started up.
Because they realistically drafted 3 goalies. They just traded 2 of them away. So good on Vegas. Well done to Sean Williams. I'm very excited to see how he navigates the college draft and how he navigates free agency, because if it's anything like he did today, it's going to be a wild time for Vegas. My big gripe with this draft, though, does not come from Vegas themselves, although it might. I don't know how it all gets situated, but last year, we all remember Panther City had a grandiose live stream event with people from the community of, Dallas-Fort Worth in that area, announcing the picks. Players were there, everything. Why was Vegas subjected to a Twitter graphics announcement of their expansion draft? I don't know why this was not broadcast. I don't know why stuff like this continues to happen in the lacrosse community, where we have all these like ESPN Plus is right there. Throw the expansion draft on ESPN Plus. It would be a 30-minute type thing, I'm sure, give or take. You throw in some highlights of some of the players and everything. I just don't understand why there wasn't a broadcast event for this, being that it's Las Vegas. Yeah, they always do it bigger in Vegas. The people who own this team are obviously high-profile people. And the NLL, I think, is far past a Twitter social media expansion draft announcement situation. I was just very surprised that this was not broadcast, especially knowing that Vegas is like grandiose announcement that like, hey, we're coming to Vegas. Here's the introduction press conference with Wayne Gretzky and Joe Tsai was done on Twitch. Why don't we do that? Like, take advantage of the resources in front of you. And I was kind of disappointed that it was subjected to a graphics announcement for the expansion draft.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice to go with, in my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of reasoning behind it. Obviously, we don't know that reasoning, but didn't make a lot of sense. ESPN obviously is the go-to, now that it's there, you take advantage of it. But if not, YouTube, it's easy to go live on YouTube, go back to Twitch,
Twitter,
go live on Twitch, go
Facebook.
Live on, you can go live on Twitter, you can go live on Facebook. Go ahead and do it live. Bring in some actual audience for it. Help boost, and continue to grow the game like we talk about all the time. These are things that hold our game back. There isn't an NFL, NBA, or NHL draft that isn't streamed in multiple places. Like you can see it just on regular cable TV, but then you can see it on ESPN on the app. You can see it on ESPN Plus. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on Twitch. You can see it on Twitter.
Even the MLB draft is on MLB Network, and that has like 5,000 rounds.
Yeah. You can see it on Instagram. Like you can see it on Reddit. It's being played everywhere. That's why everybody's into it. Like you have to give multiple avenues of viewing things, or people aren't really going to get into it. So like, do I understand why they possibly did this? Yeah, because there's probably some obscene reason out there that they went with that made total sense to them, and okay. But at the same time, we're holding ourselves back from the potential we could actually reach by doing things like this.
I'm just saying, Vegas, DJ and I were available. We could have hosted this.
Absolutely.
Just letting you know for the future. If you have any future situations where you need hosts, we're available.
Yep.
Hit our lines.
I can always work my schedules around.
Hit our lines. We would gladly announce any sort of draft situation for you.
Or anything else for that matter.
Yeah. Games, community events, you name it. We got you. Hit our lines. You know us. We did have another draft today, DJ. It was the PLL All-Star rosters getting drafted by the captains, Connor Farrell, Trevor Baptiste. Trevor Baptiste, two-time All-Star captain now. Very fun draft. This was done on YouTube, which I didn't hate. I'll start with my gripe about the PLL All-Star draft. Again, we're on ESPN. We have technology. I get the fantasy aspect of it. I feel like the PLL has far surpassed your two all-star captains taking and placing stickers on a dry erase board to draft your players. Make this a little digital. Make this a little more fun. Make it kind of like the NBA all-star draft where, you have the two guys in the room or, for the past couple of years they've been on Zoom or whatever, but you can have these two guys, have computer screens and push buttons for guys to get, like, it's so capable of being done. Let's move past that for 2023. Hopefully we don't have to move, stickers on a dry erase board next year. That's my one gripe with the All-Star draft. But other than that, it's always fun watching RJ chop it up with whoever the captains are. And those two drafting. We got the rosters here. Deej, should we start with Trevor Baptiste squad or Connor Farrell squad?
Let's start with Connor.
So we got Connor Farrell, first time being an All-Star Game captain. Obviously, the All-Star Game is next weekend in Boston at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. So the starters for Team Farrell are Connor Farrell himself, Mike Manley, Lyle Thompson, Tom Schreiber, Logan Wisnauskas, Justin Anderson, Will Manny, Mike Chanenchuk, Jared Newman, JT Giles Harris, and Kyle Burnmore. A lot of pink, a lot of blue. Very solid roster, though.
Yeah, I thought there were some iffy picks in my opinion, just because of who was on the opposite side that I felt like he should have grabbed, just in terms of who Trevor had already grabbed and just, chemistry-wise and not getting blown to pieces in this game. But I also think it was a very solid draft. Like, he picked guys that he felt comfortable with. He picked guys that he felt had very good seasons. Picked guys that are honestly very good in their position. I don't think he picked anybody that didn't deserve to be in the champion or in the All-Star game. Their attack line is filthy. Wondering how that's going to work, if any of those guys are going to play some mid and take some mid runs, and just excited to see this offense kind of fly around with each other, because they're really fun to watch, and it's going to be fun to see them kind of playing with each other. But also Mike Manley, wondering if he's going to score in transition or not.
That'll be a lot of fun. And to list off Connor's reserves, friend of the program, Ryan Tarafenko, Zach Currier, CJ Costabile, Sean Scanoni, Rob Pennell, Jack Rowlett, Brendan Nickturn, Connor Kelly, Jacob Pulver. Again, unreal reserves. I thought his picks of Zach Currier, CJ Costabile back-to-back was dynamic, and that was I'm going to take care of mine while I'm at the stripe situation. I really enjoy his reserve picks. And he's got the Asgardians of the Galaxy. He's got Thor himself, he's got Groot, and he's got Rocket Raccoon, Brendan Nickturn on the squad. For the good vibes, Connor Farrell's squad, in terms of friends of the program / guys who follow us on Twitter. Connor obviously follows us. We've got Will Manny, Mike Chanenchuk, friend of the program, Jared Newman, friend of the program, Ryan Tarafenko, friend of the program, Jack Rowlett, friend of the program. Good vibes so far, Connor. Well done.
I thought Jack and Jared were picked way too low. But
yeah, I was surprised Jack was a reserve.
But like I understand, with a negative 17,
Yeah.
score differential and stuff, it doesn't look good. But like those guys have played very solid defense this year and have been two of the top defensemen in the league. It just doesn't necessarily show because their offense has struggled. Their defense hasn't struggled at all in all reality. But when you're playing defense all game, and it wears on you. You can play very good defense all game, but when you're playing 20, 30, 40 minutes of defense, teams are going to score a lot because you just get drawn out and they are eventually able to figure out what you're doing.
And I'll say this is the first year we've had a lot more consistency with defensemen in terms of it not just being, oh, it's the Whip Snakes guys, it's, Jared and Jack, and then, a couple of the Woods guys. You've got guys on Atlas, you've got guys on Chrome, Cannons, like across the board, all 8 teams who have played stellar defense this year, especially from this Chrome team, like Mike Manley being an all-star, JT Giles Harris being an all-star in his first year. I think it just speaks to the level of defensive play really being elevated this year, and we've seen that, I think, in a lot of the scores for the most part as well, whether it's been lockdown defense, like that Woods Chrome game, or just the low scoring games we've had, like Archer's Woods this past weekend being a 10-9 game. I think that speaks to just the consistency and the elite level defensive play we've had from all 8 teams rather than it being like that little pocket we've had in years past.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been very solid across the board. And the defenses are a big part of why there hasn't been blownouts. They're playing with a different level of aggression, a different level of meaning. It's kind of like they're like tired of the offenses getting all the shine. Like all you ever hear about in the PLL really is offense this, offense that. Like all the Archers have all these guys, Whips have these guys, Chaos has all, but nobody's ever really talking about defense. And it seemed like those guys got tired of it over the summer. And they're like, we are just as good at lacrosse, and like we do really good things on the lacrosse field too. You guys all need to pay attention to that. And like you've seen it across the board. You can pick out 2, 3, 4 guys on every defense on every team that have been playing stellar defense all year. Whether it's a short stick in LSM or a closed D, like you can find guys on every team that are just playing spot on exactly what you need.
100%. I think, like you said, some of the picks Connor made were product of him being a first-time All-Star captain, how the draft kind of goes. Because he did pick some guys where it's like, Trevor filled out that entire position. You don't need to take that guy yet. But I do like his roster a lot, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch during the game. Team Baptiste looks like this. Starters-wise, we got Trevor, Jeff Teat, Matt Dunn, Chris Gray, Blaze Reardon, Brian Costabile, Matt Rambo, Jules Henningberg, Graham Hosick, Miles Jones, Garrett Epple as your starters. Very solid. We got the Wings boys all together, including Brian Costabile. I like how both guys were loyal to their squads and got every single guy possible from their teams. I was not surprised. I was like very pleasantly surprised Trevor went with Matt Dunn as early as he did. That was one of the picks that stood out to me. I think Trevor's defense on paper, by how those 3 guys have played this year, of Matt Dunn, Graham Hosick, and Garrett Epple, that's a scary-ass defense to put in front of Blaze.
That's a scary defense to put in front of anybody, honestly.
Yeah.
Those are, we're talking maybe the 3 finalists for, Defensive Player of the Year this year. Like,
Yeah.
if it were to end right now, those are my 3 finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. You can make some arguments for Jake Pulver, JT Giles Harris, Mike Manley, etc. Like there's a few guys that can be thrown into the conversation, but those 3 are at the top of the market. Like they have been playing absolutely phenomenal. As much as I dislike Garrett Epple at times, he has looked absolutely phenomenal this year.
This has hands down been his best season.
Oh, I cannot take a single thing away from him. He's been the best defenseman on the field for the Redwoods game in and game out.
The midfield for this team is going to be very interesting. I'm interested to see how Jules, Miles, and Brian Costabile play together, and kind of how they're going to maneuver that and see who goes where, because obviously this offense is very
And how long they
Atlas
stay
heavy.
on the line together.
Yeah. You got Jeff
Is
Teague, Chris Gray.
is it just the first run, or or are they going to stay on for a little? Are they going to take a few runs together? I wouldn't be surprised to see them take the first run as starters and then disperse.
Yeah. Matt Rambo on this squad with the Atlas Bulls is very fun as well. And then Trevor's reserves. The fact that Danny Logan is a reserve is bonkos. Like, what?
Well, like I said, I was surprised Miles was a starter, but like he's that much of a fan favorite. Like this is quote unquote my problem with like fan voting with these kind of things. Like certain guys don't get the recognition they deserve, or certain guys are like in spots that like they shouldn't be in, and like maybe it's just my opinion, but like you got to look at gameplay as much as like how much you like a guy.
I
Like don't
think
get me like
looking at
don't
it too, not to cut you off, but it looks
yeah.
like both LSMs and short stick D middies were all reserves. So I don't know if that was just a league thing. But looking back at Connors, like Ryan Tarafanko, CJ Costabile were both reserves, as well as Danny Logan and Mike Earhart, who both Danny and Mike are the best at their position right now. And
Yeah.
the fact that they're reserves is wild, but I think it might just be a semantics thing with the
I would hope
rosters.
I would hope so, because it's like you can't. It irritates me when guys don't play as well. Like I'm the biggest Miles Jones fan like on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
but
I said Miles was going to be the MVP this year preseason.
yeah, but like I cannot say that he's played his best lacrosse this year. Like I cannot say that I do not believe he deserves to be a starter on the All-Star team. Does he deserve to be, in the reserves and playing? Absolutely. Like he's still a very good player and has had his moments this year and has got the votes from the fans to be there. But to be a starter is kind of just like not okay when you look at, how some of the other midfielders have played this year.
100%. So Danny Logan, Brad Smith, who I think has earned a spot for sure. I think he's been very underrated this year in particular. Jack Kincannon.
His two bomb this weekend was nuts.
Gnarly. Jack Kincannon gets in as the reserve goalie for Team Baptiste. Matt Moore, job well done to the boy. Very much deserved and should be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. He gets in on Team Baptiste. Marcus Holman, so the bunk bed boys are separated. Gets in Cade Van Raphorst, or as this past weekend he was Cade Van Splashhorst, friend of the program right there. Tucker Durkin, Michael Sowers, the Philly boy gets in there. DJ, Mikey Sow, and then Mike Earhart, like we mentioned as well. Awesome reserve roster for Trevor. I think the wild part is, a 2 and 3 Water Dogs team did not have a single starter for them to draft, which is kind of crazy to me. And I think Michael Sowers and Zach Courier have been great, and Connor Kelly as well. Kind of surprised Ryan Brown didn't get a nod as a reserve. But overall, I think, also very interesting that none of the Water Dogs defensemen get into the All-Star game. That might be my biggest surprise here. But takeaways from both of these teams, how would you grade Team Farrell and Team Baptiste?
Just going back to that last point, like the Water Dogs, like not really having starters or their defense not getting it. I think about it, and it makes a lot of sense to me now that I'm like really thinking about it. They are like the most team in the league. Like there's not a lot of like outstanding guys who like stand out on their team. They play team ball. They are very much like hot hand goes. Whoever's going is going. Whoever scores. Whoever creates the turnover does. Like they just play team ball. It does not matter individually, their statistics or anything. It's just a matter of at the end of the day, the Water Dogs need to have more goals scored than the other team on the other side. Like So I think that's why like people are kind of like shying away from voting for those guys is because like they don't necessarily have the statistics to match, and like nobody really pops out on their team like, oh my god, he's so good. It's just like the Water Dogs are a very good lacrosse team as a whole. But
Because
grading,
I have one guy that I would make the argument, and it might not be the guy everybody's thinking of. I'm surprised Ben Randall's not an
that
all
yeah,
star.
that's probably like the one guy. But then again, like you look at their defense, and the one guy you hear the most about, that's talked about the most, is Liam Burns. So, Ben Randall's even like a backseat, like not even backseat guy, but like he's not the guy that gets all the hype on their defense. It's mostly Liam Burns. So it's like, how many guys, like if you're not like a legit fan who sits and watches the Water Dogs or watches the PL every week, you probably don't know exactly how good Ben Randall is. You've seen him make some plays, but you don't understand that he has the impact that a Brody Merrill, and Eddie Glazner, a Matt Dunn has, where he doesn't necessarily need to make a play, but his presence is the play.
Liam Burns also not being in, looking at his stats right now, is asinine. Liam Burns has 17 ground balls in 5 games. What are we doing?
But I mean, a lot of people are looking at cost turnovers combined with ground balls plus points. Like it's hard to get nods in this league as a defenseman if you're not helping on the offensive side because of how short the field is. You pick up a ground ball, you're expected to take it and push in transition, or you get out in the clear, you're expected to make something happen. So guys that aren't putting up points are also getting kind of gypped over in voting because they're very good defensemen, but because they're not helping on the offensive side, people feel like they aren't as good as a Mike Manley who seems to score every week.
So I'll read off for you the cause turnover top 10 right now in the PLL this season. Garrett Epple leading the way with 12. We've got 2 guys tied with 8, and that's Jake Pulver, Eddie Glazner. Eddie not an all-star. Jake is. Deservedly so for Jake, though.
Yes.
Mike Manley is number 4 with 6. He's tied with a bunch of guys. It's Mike Manley, Graham Hosick, Matt McMahon, not an all-star, JT Giles Harris, Liam Burns. Danny Logan has 5. Mike Messenger has 5. Cade Van Raphorst has 5. Craig Chick, Scott Ratliff, Matt Witcher. Surprisingly enough, you'll like this one. Kyle Burnlore has 5 caused turnovers.
Yes, KB. Get out there.
So those are your top 15 caused turnover guys. Ground ball wise, outside of your face-off athlete, Zach Courier is obviously number 6 because he's a vacuum out there. CJ Costabile is number 8 with 19. Mike Earhart, Scott Ratliff, Liam Burns all tied with 17. Mike Earhart, the only one of those, deservedly so, being an all-star. Scott Ratliff, Liam Burns, not. And then Craig Chick, Graham Hosick, surprisingly, Adam Gittleman is in the top 15 for ground balls this year with 14. Yeah, just surprising that like the Water Dogs didn't get any. I feel like their defense just gets so underrated all the time. Like
they're a unit, man.
They're just so good.
Units don't get individual praise; they get unit praise, right? Like we talked about the Water Dogs defense a lot last year. We talked about them like pretty much like quote unquote like carrying that team to how good they were because of just how they played. They got praised as a unit. It wasn't the Liam Burns show, the Ben Randall show, the Chris Sabia show. It was just the Water Dogs defense. Like, and as a defensive guy, you get your rocks off more off of being a unit than you do individually. Like, yeah, it's nice to, people be like, oh, you're such a good defenseman. Like, oh, you did this, you did that. But when you hear, like, you guys played so well today as a unit. You guys went out there and did your job. You guys won us the game. That means so much more as a defenseman than anything you can individually get.
I think I just like Ben Randall and Liam Burns.
Oh, 1,000%. I'm there with you too. I definitely think they deserve to be in there, but I'm interested now to see how the voting and thing goes with this and starters and reserves and all of that. How much the fan voting actually is, incorporated into that. Is there any type of other, like coaches voting,
Media
anything?
voting,
Yeah, is there any other kind of voting that goes into this as
player
well?
voting.
Yeah, like, there's so many variables that we honestly don't know on the outside looking in that could be the reason why these all-star rosters shake out the way they do.
Biggest surprise, who made the All-Star team? I think we can remove Miles too because we were both,
I'd say that was
and that's
probably
no slight at Miles.
yeah, no, that's no slight, but that's probably like the only guy I really had is like a surprise. Like I was looking at the rest of the guys. I'd say my only surprise was like reserves, like Danny Logan and like the LSMs and stuff being reserves. But like we said, that might be a clause kind of thing. But I had no real surprises.
I think
guess.
pleasant surprise is Connor Kelly. I wasn't like anticipating him getting the nod, but I'm happy he did. Happy Justin Anderson got a nod as a starter. Happy Jared Newman got the nod as a starter for our brand. I don't know if I'm just underrating the season he's having, mostly because I feel like their team is just so dynamic this year and so many guys. Like, I feel like we haven't heard Brian Costable's name called that much this year. So that was kind of a shock that he was voted in as a starter.
I had a shock with Scanoni being a reserve.
I get it.
I don't.
I get it because I'm looking at it from fan vote. Blaze is going to get the majority of the fan vote, which is deservedly so. But I also think Kyle Burnlore's had a fucking crazy good season. And not saying Scanoni hasn't, but I think and this ties into something we've talked about a ton, is Whipsnakes have a fan base. And they probably came out in droves, deservedly so, for their guy who has had a big bounce back year to get the nod as a starter, where Chrome's fan base is starting to kind of cultivate this season for the most part. Like a lot of their fans, there's been Chrome fans, but the fan base is starting to build now that they're good, and that's typically what happens with any sports team. So that didn't surprise me as much, but I'm glad he got in because he fucking deserves it. All four guys who got in as goalies, I think, was the right choice.
Yeah, it's just I can't. It's something about how much everyone has doubted Scanoni, and for him to be having the season he's having is beyond unreal. Like I expected Bernlord to bounce back. I mean, the guy got set for the second half of the year. He hasn't been set in forever. I don't even know if he got set while he was at Maryland. Like he's so used to playing, like there was no way he wasn't rattling his brain and putting in all kinds of work to get back and be back, as a top 2 goalie in the league. I saw that coming. You didn't see, for the matter. We've talked about this, and other people have talked about them going out and getting more goalies before the season even started. Almost everyone, anyone not in a Chrome locker room was doubting Sean Scanoni preseason. And now that he's come out and played the way he has, I haven't heard anyone down talk Sean Scanoni since the start of the year.
Yeah, I flat out said after week 1 that I was wrong.
And that's why I think he deserves it a tad bit more than Burnmore in terms of starting over reserve. Like,
I don't
absolutely
disagree with you.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% believe, Burnlor deserves to start as much as he deserves to be a reserve. But when you put, the circumstances up against each other and then how they've performed under those, Scanoni has had an all-star starter season compared to Burnlor's circumstances.
I'm going to say this is a hot take. I love Brian Costabile. He should not be an all-star starter this year, looking at his stats. I'm going to read you his stats. You tell me if you agree. He's played in all 5 games. He's got 8 points this year. 4 1-point goals, 4 assists. He's shooting 14%. He's taken 6 2-point shots, hasn't made any of them. 16 shots on goal. His shots on goal percentage is 55%. He's got 10 ground balls, 11 turnovers, and 1 power play goal.
That's hard to say you even deserve to be a starter. Or not a starter, an all-star.
Yeah. And I mean, if he's going to be, like, that's more a reserve.
And I'm thinking it's fan vote.
Yeah.
You know,
it's got to be a fan vote.
I think he's in the same boat as Miles. Like, people just really like him and, you know, are used to him having a good season and playing so well. They're like, he's my favorite player. I'm going to vote for him even though he had a bad year. Like, he's having a bad year.
And I don't know if that's also just like the Atlas nod because they're 4-1 at the break and they've played so well that people are just like, oh, he must be playing well.
Mm-hmm. And in reality, he's having an okay season, but, you know, he's kind of getting carried by Teat and Gray and Eric Law, who has 9 goals this year.
Yeah, how is Eric Law not an all-star?
He's getting drowned out. You know, when you got Teat and Gray down there doing everything, you get 9-10 goals in the first 5 games of the year, and half the people don't know it.
I'll say Miles deserves to be an all-star more than Brian Costabile, stats-wise. On paper, I'll read you Miles' stats right now. 5 games played. He's got 10 points, 5 1-point goals, 1 2-pointer, 3 assists on 26 shots. He's shooting 23%. He's taken 5 2-point shots, obviously made the 1. He's got 14 shots on goal. His shots on goal percentage is 54%. He's got 2 ground balls, 8 turnovers. That, to me, is way more of an all-star resume than Brian Costabile's. He's got a better shooting percentage. He's made a 2-pointer. His shots on goal percentage is 1% lower. And he's got less turnovers.
His resume is nice. I just don't like the way he's played. Like, the resume looks okay, but it's like one of those misleading resumes. You know, like,
yeah, and I'm saying just in the grand scape for everybody listening at home, I'm saying this in terms of all-star.
1,000%. For that basic, yeah.
Now I'm like curious what midfielders got left out.
A lot. There's a ton of them out there. Looking at stats, I mean, Bertrand could have got a bid.
I need to look at Chaos real quick. Because I think somebody got snubbed.
Uh-huh. Who?
His name's Kyle Jackson. He's got the same amount of points as Brian Costabile. He's got 8 points in 5 games. He's got 2 assists. He's shooting the same percentage as Costabile. He's got 55% shooting percent. His shots on goal percentage, though, Deej, KJ's shooting 82% on his shots on goal. He's got 9 shots on goal this year. 3 ground balls, 7 turnovers, and 1 power play goal.
And I'm going to go back to last year. Jackson Moreau.
I will pull up Jackson's stats for you.
Which will go back to your point about fan base. KJ individually does not really have a fan base.
Which is wild to you and I, because that's the boy. So, 2 guys, midfield-wise, that I think should have been in over Brian Costabile. KJ, who we just talked about, and like you said, KJ doesn't have a fan base, which you could argue he does. It's just not from a chaos perspective. But I feel like KJ is like one of the most beloved guys in the league. And his stats speak for themselves. And I'm looking at Cannon's roster right now, and it's absolutely hilarious looking at their roster because Bubba Fairman's face looks like it's photoshopped on somebody else's body. He's listed as a midfielder. I don't know if I would constitute Ryan Drenner as a midfielder on this team. But there's another guy who I would say constitutes as a midfielder in my mind through the first 5 games of the season. And the fact that Asher Nolting is not an all-star is lunacy.
I will combat you on that because Ryan Drenner has ran out of the box way more than Asher Nolting has.
That's fair.
As soon as they started having some issues down low with Lyle and his injuries, they plugged Asher down there. He's been playing down there a lot more. Even with Lyle back in the lineup, they've kind of left him down there. And Drenner has been running out of the box and getting some short stick matchups, and it's worked for him a lot. So I would say Drenner is probably the one here that has gotten the snub at midfield, probably out of anybody in the whole league, to be honest. I think.
And even if you want to just go positionless too, like how the NBA is like, oh, let's play positionless all-star game. Let's talk even positionless. Also, very interesting. Cannon's tagline on their roster thing is Boston born. Ryan Drenner, stats-wise, he's played in all 5 games, 12 points, 10 one-point goals, 2 assists. He's taken 33 shots. He's shooting 30%. His shots on goal percentage is 67%. He's got 5 ground balls, 2 turnovers. So that's pretty damn good in my opinion. He's got 1 power play goal. Asher Nolting played in all 5 games. He's got 14 points, 9 one-point goals, 5 assists. He's shooting 33%. His shots on goal percentage is 74%. He's got 5 ground balls and maybe his only knock. But when you're just watching the game, you're impressed by Asher Nolting. He's got 19 turnovers, but as a rookie, you kind of expect some of those growing pains. And, I mean, I'm stunned Asher Nolting got snubbed as an all-star. I think those 3 guys that we just listed off, KJ, Ryan Drenner, and Asher Nolting, got snubbed. Those are my snubs of the year. Like Jackson Moreau was a snub last year, and I'll never get over that because I don't know if Jackson Moreau will get the opportunities that he got last year ever again on this Chrome team because of how loaded they are now, which breaks my heart because that's the homie. I think those 3 guys got snubbed.
Just thinking logic here. Asher obviously didn't get the nod because, like I mentioned, the attack stuff that positionless, though, yes. Yeah, I think he deserves a nod.
Like, even as a reserve, the fact that he didn't get in one way or another is kind of wild.
It is. There was some, like I said, some questionable things, but I kind of chalked that up to fan voting. KJ, once again, I'm chalking up to fan voting and possibly the 4-1 Bulls swing. You know, like the Bulls are 4-1, whereas Chaos is 1-4. Like, how do you reward a guy with similar stats on a 1-4 team over a guy on a 4-1 team, you know? But then Drenner, I can't say Drenner didn't get snubbed. His stats 100% speak for themselves. The way he's played, he has a swagger back. Like, this is the first time I've called him Ryan Drenner. I've called him Tote God all year. I've refused to call him anything other than Tote God all year because he's playing with that swagger that he played with in college in his early years where he's just total, like, out
He looks like Whipsnake's Ryan Drenner again.
He's literally out here like, you can't see me, I can't see you, but the ball's going in the net. Like,
he's like 11 in a sensory deprivation tank.
So dead serious. Like, it's wild, you know? So, like, I would say he got snubbed, but, like, maybe he's just going to fuel and keep balling out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, those are my 3 snubs. You guys can let us know who you think got snubbed in the YouTube comment section or tweet at us at OTBLaxPod, Twitter, Instagram. That's where you can follow us. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me on Twitter at KBIZZL311. Check out our website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed, like we said, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. And, of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. We're 7 subscribers away from 150. Let's get there this weekend. Let's get to 150 this weekend. Smash the like button. Click the bell icon. Comment down below. And be a friend, tell a friend, share the channel, share videos with your friends, and let them know that we are on the YouTubes. And, of course, like I said at the top of the show, go to @UndergroundPHI on Twitter. We're giving away Wolverine number 22, the comic book, with the Brian Dawkins variant cover. And you get an extra entry if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. So go check that out if you're a comic book fan, Brian Dawkins fan, Eagles fan, Wolverine fan, X-Men fan, or just, you want to support us and get I think, arguably one of the coolest giveaways we've ever done across the board on any of our franchises. So go check that out.
What if they're already subscribed?
If they're already subscribed, just show us proof. Or unsubscribe, resubscribe.
Solid.
Get the algorithm cooking. But yeah, go check that out. And of course, follow DJ at SCS_next great. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Shout out to the sponsors: Tomahawk Shades, Beano, Kenwood Beer. No pickup props this week because there's no games. But make sure you check them out as well. All their information and our promo codes and everything are linked in the show notes on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and they're in the description on YouTube. This has been episode number 229 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, and of course, viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For DJ, I'm KB. Till next week, it'll be All-Star Week, and the real ones will know here, all OTB, next week's show. If you listened all the way through, you will know. So shout out to the real ones, all OTB, coming next week. But until then, we're getting the heck out of here. Peace.
Peace.